Welcome Classic Rock fans to an episode of Classic Album Review, where classic albums are excavated and explored. And today we're looking at Rain Dogs by Tom Waits. Tom Waits tends to focus on those that occupy the margins of society. His albums often delve deep into the murky abyss. His work, sticking with the painting analogy, reminds me of those Counter-Reformation illustrations or depictions by Caravaggio, fraught and tormented, but very urban in this case. Rather than the world of biblical allegory or narrative, he draws the listener into this claustrophobic night world, which definitely has a smidgen of voyeuristic allure as well, especially to those, in the words of Rolling Stone, those middle-class seekers of the edge. His albums to me feel like a chapter ripped straight out of Dostoevsky's Poor Folk or Biedni Ludia in the original Russian. These uncompromising depictions of whores, old salts, losers and gamblers and wasters in this. It's a carnivalesque rogues gallery that is just intriguing. These three albums, Swordfish, Trombones, Frank's Wild Years and Rain Dogs, form this triptych of the urban dispossessed. Henry Mayhew wrote a famous tract on the London poor, London labour and the London poor in the 1840s. I can't help but feel he and Waits would have found a lot of common ground here, although one was about outrage and perhaps trying to stimulate reform, where the other was about the romanticism of the void and the heart of the marginalised. This album has been described by Wikipedia as a loose concept album about the urban existences and the marginalised of New York City. It is an unflinching portrayal of the human spirit, what Saul Bellow might describe as the transcendence of the utterly dismal. Waits definitely finds the human spirit most intriguing when it's enveloped in human suffering. But whereas Woody Guthrie explores such suffering through the medium of the blues, focusing on itinerant farmers and farmhands, Tom Waits likes to look for his inspiration amid the gin-soaked dives of New York City. This is a primal, beautiful and abrasive album, and in fact Pitchfork has said it's one of the best albums of the 1980s. Sonically as well, it's absolutely intriguing, with its jarring rhythms and unusual instrumentation from marimbas, accordion, various percussion. It does bear some similarity, I think, to Swordfish Trombones, but I think this album's a little bit more sprawling than that. One of the key factors on this album is the guitar playing of Mark Ribot, or Ribot, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. He makes a huge difference to this record. His dramatic leads add something to punctuate the morass of Tom Waits' musings. And often the lyrics on this album feel like they've just been pieced together at random. Maybe he's gone for a kind of a William S. Burroughs approach to writing songs, perhaps. Nevertheless, this album, like the previous albums, display a gorgeous sense of what I would call urban theatre. I mean, I read at one point that for percussion they would just find any implement and just bash the hell out of that, looking for a specific sound. In fact, Tom Waits said, "If I want a sound, I usually feel better if I've chased it, killed it, skinned it and cooked it." There's some remarkable tracks on here, of course, tracks like, the catchy Hang Down Your Head, Time, and Downtown Train, which was, of course, a big hit for Rod Stewart. This album represents the chaotic and sprawling, and as a listeners we hang on tight as it careers effortlessly towards the rocks of cultural degeneracy. The critic Robert Christgau stated that Tom Waits worked out a unique and identifiable lounge lizard sound that suits his status as the poet of America's non-9-to-5ers. And the range of different musical avenues we go down here are slurred and sprawling. It's a real barroom jukebox of different styles, everything from country songs, gospel, polkas, ballads, sea shanties. There's something for everybody. What's intriguing is that sense of theatre at the heart of it all. This ragbag cast, from the sad-eyed dames that could be lifted straight from an old 1940s film noir. The girl with the tattooed tear who proclaims, "One for every year who's away," she said. But the oddities that populate these numbers harbour a lot of comic potential, something that's not lost on Waits. And we get that macabre and grotesque array of stingy seniors in Cemetery Polka, but also incredibly beautiful Hang Down Your Head. There is no doubt that troubled and tubercular rasp of Tom Waits provides a voice for the disenfranchised. His work comes across as almost anthropological. It's a world where the romance of the drunk and disorderly has some purchase upon the heart of the listener. It has been said that the man on the cover of this album bears a striking resemblance to Tom Waits. It was, however, a photograph, one of a series, in fact, taken by the Swedish photographer Anders Peterson at the cafe near the Hamburg Red Light Boulevard, the Reeperbahn, in the late 60s. Wonderful array of eclectic songs, this sonic melange that just enthralls. You see Waits on here moving away from the piano to the guitar to dabble with a wider variety of instruments, but that was happening with the previous album also. And as I say, we get that eclectic range of instruments from bow saws and accordions and barrel organs and God knows what else. But I have mentioned before that the contribution of the guitar work of Mark Ribot, or Ribot, I'm not sure how you say it, described by one critic as contributing those humid Cuban licks. It has a very angular guitar style as well, which really shines through. Not only contributes beautifully to these songs, it perfectly complements Tom Waits' suave dishevelment. A lot of the sound on this album as well is not only the eclectic instrumentation he used in Mark Ribot, but also the use of New York's jazz cats. In fact, drummer Stephen Hodges says he did use certain artists from the area. Robert Klein, Mark Ribot's a New York guy all the way. He captured that quirky jazz kind of somewhat atonal but still melodic feel. Certainly Waits brings together the palpable and discordant, merging familiar with unfamiliar sounds. Interestingly, Waits even recorded street sounds. He was so keen to infuse this project not only with the sounds of the city but the sounds of New York. So let's think about some of the songs on this album. I haven't gone through all the songs, not necessarily in order either, but some of the ones that struck me. Singapore is a fascinating number. It has a very cartoony feel to it, with its discordant rhythms and textures. The brass and the clanking make for a very interesting number, and the vocals are chilling as well. The lyrics are sung to a group of sailors describing their destination, Singapore. Great use of sound effects at the end with the storm clouds and rain paints a vivid and quite a darker image, I think, reminiscent of a twisted sailor's tale. There's a whole range of styles emerge in this one, from polka, jazz, rock, everything in between. Clap Hands, a very nursery rhyme feel to it. Some have said that it's almost a tribute to Dr. John. The vocals whisper insane, insane, which instantly infuse it with a sense of menace. And of course the percussion adds a very jumbled feel to the thing. And I love the fact that he manages to incorporate the clapping song in this. It's a wonderful nod to sort of childhood amid the murky jazz of this album. It's perverse and brilliant is how I'd describe this song. Hang Down Your Head, it was co-written by his wife, Kathleen Brennan. There's a nice catchy guitar riff here. It doesn't half remind me of the Stone Street Fighting Man as well. The droning organ forms a perfect foundation for this, quite emotional number. Hang Down Your Head for sorrow, hang down your head for me, hang down your head, Marie. Such a beautiful, beautiful song. Time is a plaintive accordion-tinged ballad. Reminds me a little bit of a Nick Cave number. And the instruments just shudder and shimmer as Waits beautifully croons. Napoleon is weeping. Waits communicates such emotion as well. The Tori Amos version that she did on her Little Girls album, Strange Little Girls, is a nice version as well. We see Waits almost pausing for breath here, this amid the hectic cacophony of this album. It's a song that seems to touch upon almost an existential ache of that sort of slipping away of the moment, the slipping away of time. We get Downtown Train, which I've said a couple of times was covered by Rod Stewart. It tells an interesting story of pursuing a young woman on a downtown train, potentially a Me Too moment if ever there was one. Union Square, what I love about this one is Keith Richards' guitar, which perfectly complements Waits' bluesy affectations in his voice. Could easily be a Stones number. Blind Love, Now You're Gone, it's hotels and whiskey and sad luck dames. Best opening line in a song, I think. Anywhere I Lay My Head, I think this is the album closer. It brings all the threads together and leaves you with a lasting impression of the record as Waits gurgles these lyrics at us. Serves as a beautiful valediction to this cast of grotesques and degenerates that were being served up. Diamonds and Gold is an intriguing number. It's all about a man looking for a new way of life, I think. And Walking Spanish, I love the groove of this number. It is infused with tragedy and comedy in equal measure. Walking Spanish is a reference to prisoners walking to the electric chair. In fact, one critic has written, Waits' vocal is yet again as gravelly and as gruff as you'd hope, and he delivers his wry lyrics with the twinkling eye of a time gone by. Tango Till They're Sore is one of the shorter pieces on the album. It's one of those pieces that adds real colour I think, a vibrancy to it. There's quite a few instrumentals on here as well. It's a fabled story of love and death. It has a nursery rhyme quality to it, albeit a rather twisted one. In fact, if I may quote, Waits is often seen as a bit of a pirate travelling across the country with a bottle by his side, plundering his songs from the corners of North America. Songs like this only add fuel to the fire. Big Black Mariah is an interesting narrative thread here. Gives this album not that it needs any serious literary and poetic thread, I think. It's a story of a man on the run trying to escape his execution, or the wooden coat that awaits him. And Gun Street Girl is the last one I want to talk about. It's smoky and booze drenched. It's the twanging guitar on here is absolutely fabulous. It picks up the story of a man who's in love with a Gun Street Girl. Wonderful album. If you don't know it, I would highly recommend that you listen to this. I think you have to listen to those 3 albums all together personally, but I think this one is a damn good place to start. Anyway, that's my take on Tom Waits' Rain Dogs. I hope you enjoyed this review. It just leaves me to say I hope you're all well, staying safe, keeping warm, looking forward to Christmas, but more importantly that you keep listening.